It takes a couple of seconds for it to kick in. We'll be starting in about 30 seconds. Okay, so it's 2:01 here on the East Coast, and I'm delighted that you could join us today. This is VENTURENEER's very, very first panel discussion. I'm Jerry Stengel. I'm the founder of VENTURENEER and the moderator for today's session. We are recording, just to let everybody know. I also want to let everybody know that we'll be distributing a link to the recording and the slides afterwards. It may not happen today, but it will happen for sure tomorrow, because I know everybody is, there's a lot of people that can attend, and they're very eager to get the information. So I am joined by two of my favorite people and two of the very best presenters that VENTURENEER has. Mark Halpert, who along the way to finding a more cost-effective and cost-efficient way to market his credit card processing business, e-giving online, he became a LinkedIn marketing expert. And he's going to share his tips and how-tos, so that you know how to put your best foot forward when presenting yourself and your organization on LinkedIn. Maria Semple of Prospect Finder is the author of Panning for Gold, Find High Net Worth Prospects Now. Maria works with nonprofits, fundraising consultants to find potential major donors. While listening to Maria do a virtual course for VENTURENEER, I found out that one of her favorite tools is LinkedIn. And I got to tell you, light bulbs went off in my head. And, you know, I hope that as eye-opening as it was for me, it's going to be as eye-opening for you as well. We also have Brian Breckenridge with us, who I love how he describes himself in his LinkedIn profile, a nonprofit success enabler. His job at LinkedIn is to help nonprofits meet their mission by utilizing LinkedIn to connect with future staff members, donors, constituents, and just about everybody else. So I want to thank Proman and Proman for hosting today's session. They're a team of dedicated attorneys driven by a passion for helping the world be a better place. They do that by focusing on nonprofit law. Their clients include nonprofits, foundations, fundraising consultants, mission-driven for-profit companies, such as VENTURENEER, and they, in fact, are my attorneys. Their specialties include nonprofit formation and governance, tax-exempt law, nonprofit fundraising, registration and compliance, social enterprise law, international philanthropy, nonprofit fundraising, and cause marketing. LinkedIn is unique among social media. It's the only social medium or social network dedicated to business. It's the world's largest professional network Maria will highlight how you can narrow down prospects by geography, title, and a whole bunch more. And you can use it whether you're looking for individual donors, board members, strategic alliances, or employees. Now that's power. Let's not forget that LinkedIn is a social network. Once you have a list of prospects, how will you approach them? With LinkedIn, you don't have to make that dreaded cold call. You can actually get an introduction. Maria and I suspect Mark and I are going to be talking about the proper etiquette or protocol for doing the approach. Mark will be talking about putting your best foot forward by having a great profile and providing you with a before and after. He'll also provide case study of how one nonprofit uses LinkedIn to find nonprofit board members. Brian is going to give you the big picture. Why is LinkedIn focusing on nonprofits, and what are they going to be doing in the future to make business even easier for nonprofits? So many of you in the audience may be too young to remember this old comic, Jack Benny, but he had a very famous joke about how to get to Carnegie Hall, and his retort to that question: practice, practice, practice. The same holds true for social media. Well, mostly. Last year, and let me just move the slides along, last summer, VENTURENEER and Caliber undertook some research among nonprofits to determine which social media they're using and how effective they are. Nearly 1,000 nonprofits responded. We found out that the most popular social media are Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and blogs. In general, most nonprofits are not very effective at using social media. We undertook a campaign here at VENTURENEER, and we did lots of training and came out with 2 ebooks, best practices and how-tos, and they're available in our ebook section on the web, as well as the trainings in our webinar section. We broke out nonprofits by light users versus heavy users. We found a very different story. Those who don't do social media very often compared to those who do. We found that with the exception of LinkedIn, practice improves performance. Notice how effectiveness for all the colored bars representing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and blogging go up the more you use it. Not so for the gold bar, which is LinkedIn. I'm here to tell you that LinkedIn is the most misunderstood social medium among nonprofits. Brian, Mark, and Maria are going to show you how easy it is to tap the power of LinkedIn. This year we're going to be doing the survey again. This time we're doing it with Message Medium, and we're expanding it. We're including all online tactics, not just social media. We're also including small businesses because I believe that there is a benefit to sharing how small businesses use social media and how nonprofits use it differently, and then sharing it with each other to up everybody's game. You can take that survey. It's on my website, the home page, and actually every page in the upper right-hand corner. Before I turn the mic over to Brian, I want to let everybody know or remind everybody that Brian is sort of split between two places. He's at a conference in California and doing this webinar with us. So he won't be with us for the Q&A, but if you do have questions for him, I'll funnel them to him. I'll funnel them to him and then share them back with you. So, Brian, take it away.
Well, Jerry, thank you very much. And I am regretfully here at this conference. I wish I could be with you there in Manhattan. But thank you again to your strong evangelism. I always like to say thank you to people like Maria and Jerry and Mark who, as LinkedIn would go, are not working in any kind of a compensated environment, nor have a vested interest in terms of LinkedIn organizationally and singing the praises of LinkedIn and how we can benefit the nonprofit world on any agenda aside from that. You just know it's a set of tools that's working well, and you're anxious to tell people more about that. So we appreciate you not having formal ties with us, but yet telling our story and educating as Jerry mentioned, I came to LinkedIn just a few months ago. I was at a company called Salesforce.com for about 9 years. And my last 3 years there, I helped Salesforce.com better serve the nonprofit sector. And because of the program that Salesforce has in place, with some discounting and some granting of their technology, they now have over 13,000 nonprofits who are benefiting greatly from their data management platform. And 3 months ago, after a long career at Salesforce, I started to chat with LinkedIn because I felt not only did LinkedIn have the functionality and some of the plumbing and the social networking strength that nonprofit world could benefit greatly from, but it also had the people connected, meaning our members, our 115.6 million members that today are using LinkedIn, both this functionality to do something to create more efficiency for themselves or for their organizations, but also to connect to the people in their careers and people in their lives that have made a big difference for them and are helping them achieve their dreams and their goals as well. So I feel like the LinkedIn story is even more compelling than that of the Salesforce story. I really do think that they'll be very harmonious as well over time, and hope to bring the two areas of functionality together more over time in some partnerships with them. But for now, just wanted to wanted you to see one link. I asked that I just have one slide today, and that's learn.linkedin.com/nonprofits. And if you spend a few moments out there, you'll get a better sense for the 5 or 6 things that we as LinkedIn suggest individual nonprofit professionals should do with their LinkedIn profile to get more successful in their use of LinkedIn, and also a small list of bullets of things that organizations should consider as well. And so we certainly want to let you know that we at LinkedIn Nonprofit Solutions have been creating learning resources like this one, and also creating the operational capacity to do business with more and more nonprofits. And what I mean by that is the LinkedIn Nonprofit Solutions emphasis that I have, which lives in our standard corporate solutions business at LinkedIn, is calling exclusively on the nonprofit world and providing very, very, very aggressive discounts for a select list of 501c3 nonprofits that are based in the United States for the rest of this year. And so if you wanted to get more information about that, feel free to go out to that learning link and just go to the bottom to the Contact Us tab, and my team will be happy to get in touch with you. I did want to just provide that big picture, as Jerry said, as I pass this virtual microphone back over to the team in the Northeast, by saying that nonprofit organizations are using LinkedIn to build their presence and tell their story. And you're going to see a lot of places that can happen today with the great work that the trainers and the motivators and to tell. And if you're telling your story well on LinkedIn, it's pretty rest assured that your Google search ranks are going to go up quite a bit. And so you'll want people to arrive at your story and a great professional presence when they do find you on Google or find you in other ways on the web. Secondly, we feel like LinkedIn is a great mechanism for the nonprofit world to build relationships, very, very strategic relationships. The majority of our products for members don't cost anything, and we want that to be the case forever and ever. There are certainly some advanced organizational tools that nonprofits are starting to invest in hand over fist because of some of the discounting that we're doing. The mission that we have is to lower the financial barrier to access of LinkedIn's organizational or corporate tools to be used by nonprofits and assuring their success. And then the third is engagement with the use of LinkedIn groups and polls and events and answers and lots of other things that certainly don't cost a dime at all and don't distract at all from your operational budget in the nonprofit world today to drive deeper engagement with those relationships that you're telling your story to. We really feel like that's beneficial. And so before I break with my remarks at the high level, I wanted to tell a really quick story. LinkedIn is powering positive social change. I'm absolutely confident of that, and I've only been at the company for a couple of months. We've got almost 4 million nonprofit professionals now that you can network with and partner with out there on our platform, perhaps even higher. Those folks, we've got 76,000 groups or more that have been created by the nonprofit sector, and over 100,000 nonprofits now have a company page. So I really think it's everybody's responsibility to make those high value and really and have those company pages which don't have a cost associated with them tell your story well. Travel with me in your imagination, if you will, for a moment, and envision that you're Jessica Napier. Jessica Napier is in charge of the HR function at the Boys and Girls Club in San Francisco. She's got a pretty good-sized staff, especially in the summer when they have thousands of kids coming to their camps. She's got some people to hire. She's got a lot of money to raise. with her counterparts in development. She's got some amazing program counselors and program mentors that she needs to hire to staff up for this summer. Well, luckily, Jessica arrived in that hectic environment with a background in recruiting and a background in organizational HR. And so in a very short period of time, she was able to do a lot that didn't cost a thing with LinkedIn, and to build a better company page, get an active presence sophisticated tools to get their junior HR people up on LinkedIn to bring in the required employees and additional staff that they needed. And they've also now been able to really expand their pipeline of candidates and the development organization and social media organizations in external relations are very, very excited as well to have a more concerted effort focused on LinkedIn. So I just wanted you to step for a moment into the life of Jessica Napier, and it's our thought that there are millions more of Jessica out there that are managing small, medium, and large groups and small, medium, and large nonprofits, and we want to be here to help. So thanks again for your evangelism, Maria, Jerry, and Mark, and please do funnel questions to me. I've got to go in now and keynote for the 500 or so people we have assembled here in California.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Brian. But one quick question before you head out.
Go ahead.
Has a question about nonprofit or LinkedIn ads for nonprofits. Can you just spend about 30 seconds talking about that, and even thinking about recommending either somebody at LinkedIn doing a webinar on that or a consultant, and we can actually host a session dedicated to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll commit here on this matter of public record that I would be happy to talk with you, Jerry, about ways we could educate people more about using the advertising vehicles on LinkedIn to move a nonprofit mission forward. And though this isn't something that we've announced broadly in general with LinkedIn Nonprofit Solutions, but we are able to provide some discounts as well in the ads area. We've yet to bring to market a formal program where we do a number of ads on a granted or donated basis, kind of like the Googles, and I believe Facebook may be considering some of this as well, but we don't today have a donating and granting program in place for our global member base, but we definitely want to coach you on practices, and for nonprofits interested in investing in ads can provide some discounts. I can't share too many specifics about that, but if you get to me by way of Jerry or by way of learn.linkedin.com/nonprofits, I'd be happy to tell you more specifics on that one-on-one.
Terrific. So thank you so much. And knock 'em dead in the keynote at the conference that you are. And for contact information, the last slide, or second to last slide, has Brian's contact information. That's right, and feel free to reach out to me by way of LinkedIn. I do get a huge volume already, but I'll do my best to get through to you directly. Also would say that the learn.linkedin.com/
forward nonprofits, and the folks standing by at that link are going to be helpful in the very, very short term. I would also say that I'm engaging in some really good public discussions. It's always better for me to have discussions in public more than in private because I think everyone benefits. And I just yesterday started, for those that are LinkedIn users or LinkedIn members, cruise over to the Chronicle of Philanthropy group. They have a wonderful group there that's very complementary to the great work of VENTURENEER. And I started a discussion yesterday asking people, they have 20,000 members of their group there. With their permission, I've asked the Chronicle to allow me to start this discussion, and they were very open to it. It just says, hey, how are you using LinkedIn? Share detailed stories, share detailed best practices and case studies. And the more we get hundreds of people sharing those on that site, the more that we can do some exciting future webinars with VENTURENEER and with other organizations like it. So please share publicly out there in that group as an example. And I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Brian.
So I'm now
Absolutely. Thank you.
Terrific. So I'm now going to turn it over to Mark Halbert. Oh, yes. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
You were looking at me stunned.
No problem. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm going to do this completely unscripted. I just want everybody to recognize that the decision of LinkedIn to commit funding and personnel to nonprofits alone is in itself quite a big achievement, and it really tells us how important nonprofits are and what will come from the future from LinkedIn. So stand by. It's going to be a great ride, and we're really excited about it. But your ride goes nowhere if you don't look great on LinkedIn. And my point and my one takeaway, if you forget everything else you hear from me today, is that I want you to be the only yellow guy in the sea of blue guys. And if you've ever heard me present on this, I come back to this over and over again. If you look like your competition, and understand, folks, in the nonprofit world, you're competing for the same donor dollar, the same time effort from your volunteer and your board members. You have to uniquely stand aside and demonstrate in LinkedIn and in every other marketing communication that you have, what is your value proposition? What do you uniquely do to bring to the table to make people to commit time, effort, and resources to you? Where is it that you're telling that story? And LinkedIn provides you that great opportunity to tell your story in your own words. Nothing appears on LinkedIn on your personal profile or your organization's company profile unless you have agreed to put it there, unless it has been approved, or you have written it in there and it is all ID and password generated and protected. So you are to tell how you differentiate yourself from all of your competition.
Sorry about that.
So when you begin your profile to fill in all the fields on LinkedIn, LinkedIn knows how to divvy up or divide up to your public profile versus your private profile. And each one of us has one of each. And I'm talking about personal profiling, about you and what you do and who you really are. The why you, the why are you the yellow guy in the sea of blue guys. When you Google somebody and you select from the Google search results their LinkedIn profile, you are seeing their public profile, the material information they want everybody to see. It's very basic. It's all out there. It's all about your street credentials. And it is a very compact and condensed version of what will look like your private profile. So we'll get to the description of what the private profile best is by telling you what your public profile doesn't show. It's an odd way to describe something, but nonetheless, it usually works. Your public profile will show your experience, your location, who you are, what you do, where you went to school, but it will not show who you were connected to. It will not show your presentations and papers. It will not show your recommendations. It will show just basic information. So as we look at my colleague, my client's public profile, I realize it's probably pretty small on your screen. You've seen these over and over again. If I get a phone call from somebody who I don't know, while I'm speaking to them, I look at their public profile to at least find the shades of common ground that we have. Did they go to the same school I went to? Do they have some experience in a field I've been in my past? How long have they been at the organization that they're in? And in this case, and thank you to Barbara Wenger for allowing us to see her public profile and eventually her private profile, you see that Barbara is telling about herself, but all of this material she's written herself, and nothing contains any private material. She agrees that this is now a new and improved private profile. We'll go through that, public profile. We'll go through that in just a minute. If you look at what a private profile is, it's what you saw and more. It is what Barbara tells her trusted group of connections, the people she has invited to connect to her or invited her to connect to them. And it further answers with more detail why Barbara. What is it about what Barbara uniquely brings to the table? It does show her connections. It shows what she and her peers have been doing because connections show that. It shows her recommendations and all her ancillary marketing materials. This is material that she protects and only shares with people she's agreed to connect to. So let's look at her private profile, and you see that in the middle, anything in blue means that you can click and dig deeper into her profile. So you see her 194 connections. If I'm reading that number correctly, you can see all of their names and all of their affiliations, and you can look at each one of them individually and see their private profiles. You can see her various websites. You can see her Twitter handle. You can see her public profile URL. You can see a lot of material about her that you couldn't see in the previous public profile. Now, Barbara came to me and she said that she thought her public and private profiles needed a little sprucing up. And I call this renovating a profile. Refashion it from the inside out. So we're going to renovate Barbara's profile. I'm going to walk you through step by step her beginning and her before and her after. And you'll see basically what we did and how we made her profile far more engaging, far more about who she really is. In the before, you see this is in the red boxes. She had a few connections. She listed her website for her organization just as company website, generic. She did not personalize or personalize her profile URL on LinkedIn, and this is something that you want to do. And she explained her experience at Community Grows in terms of what Community Grows does, not in terms of who Barbara is and what her unique values are. And so as we go on to the next slide, we took the guts of that and reworked it. First of all, we gave her a much better picture than she had before. Now, we'll talk about pictures a little bit later, but suffice it to say that your picture, first of all, the worst picture you can have on LinkedIn is no picture at all. A bad picture is at least a little bit better. This picture should be something that you can instantly be recognized, you look approachable, and you gotta love her smile. And because that's her personality, the picture's got to show who you really are. If you don't have a formal headshot, you can easily upload a digital camera picture. And if you don't know how to do it on Photoshop, find a 16-year-old that'll be happy to help you. They know this stuff better than we'll ever know. Next slide. Then we changed her profile headline. We talked about her not in terms of being director of Community Grows, but in terms of who she really is. Much like Brian has a great profile headline, and Jerry and Maria and I and all the clients that I've ever worked with, you get 120 characters, and that's shorter than a tweet, folks. That is not easy to do, to tell quickly who you really are. And this is really important because anytime you put anything into LinkedIn, in a comment, in a group, they can mouse over your name and your profile headline pops up. And then they can see your profile a little bit further. And this is important because you want people to be engaged in who you are and what you do, not what your title is and what organization you work for. That's not telling what is important and unique about you. So she's a social change agent, a community transformer, and a creative visionary. And I love those words. They're rich, they're robust, and if you know Barbara, they really describe who she is. And I was really glad that she came up with this so well. And then we reworked her past to talk in more detail about what her functions were. Your experience of all the past that you bring with you makes you who you are today. And this tells a really great story of how Barbara is committed to neighborhood renewal in San Francisco in some of the really rougher neighborhoods. And so this shows as she's developed who she really is. And then we got her some recommendations. Now, I like to think that if you take 2 to 5% times the number of connections you have, that should be the recommendation number that you want to have. You need at least 3 to have a 100% complete LinkedIn profile. If you take 2% times Barbara's almost 200 connections, you see 4 connections achieve that very well. The thought being, and what I like to call the Halpert rule, if I have no other name for it, so I have to call it the Halpert rule, is that 98% of your connections should like you, and 2% should stark raving love you, enough to recommend you and to commend you for all the great work you've done with them. So that's just a guideline, and don't be embarrassed or afraid to ask for recommendations. It's easy to do. Next, one more. And then we added her Twitter handle, and then we cleaned up her public profile URL. This is a very easy thing to do. You go into the Help Center function at the bottom of any LinkedIn page, and an open box shows up where you can query the body of knowledge and type in personalized URL, and it'll walk you through the instructions on how to do this. So I like to say that what Barbara did was she really cleared up a lot of the easy things to do right on the front page. These take no time at all, and now everything she puts out on LinkedIn appears on her Twitter and vice versa. Her public profile URL appears on her business card. It appears on her emails. It's easy to get a hold of Barbara and figure out who she is if you got her email and wanted to know more about her. And finally, what we did on this page is we added, you see the little box with the little star on the top right? We added a company profile for Community Grows. A very simple thing to do. It's a subset of her website, and it talks to a corporate community, which is what LinkedIn is all about, in a corporate language that will give you, in a nutshell, what does Community Grows do. Not to be confused with what we're looking at as her private profile about who she is. This talks about what her organization does. Very different thing. Keywords, which came right off of her website. These search engine keywords can be written very cleanly into your summary. And what's really unique is that the summary and the specialty section are searchable on LinkedIn. I don't want to take anything away from what Maria's going to say, but you must have keywords that are important to your industry, your sub-industry, your mission in your summary as well as your specialty so you can be found in a search. We also, one back please.
Sorry about that.
A little too fast. We also gave her executive director title a little bit more beef, told under her direction about what Barbara has done with this organization. It's about her. There's nothing wrong with telling that. Before, it just said one line about someplace she spent 14 years. That's certainly 14 years worth of, should be a lot more than one line of language. Talk about what you have done for this organization. That you took it from point A to point B with number of the size of the budget, the number of employees, whatever the metric is that shows success. Demonstrate what you've done. The same thing with the Western Addition Peace Wall project. She talked with metrics about what she did in this group, in this organization. We added a master's that she's working on at the new school in New York. We gave her company website a direct link, and we added more groups and associations. Groups and associations, Maria will tell you all about it, is one of the best, easy, simple ways to meet great people doing the same thing and in the affiliated areas that you're affiliated in. And then I said to Barbara, have you had any publications? She said, oh yeah, should I put them on there? Well, of course. If your peers are deeming your work publishable, you should tell people what and where you've published. Each one of these documents or articles that she's published, if it's in blue, means you can click right through into that document and read it right there. And I always like my clients to have a very brief executive summary about what you're about to read, so as the reader, you can determine if you want to spend time with it now or come back to it later. So she's written these 4 articles, and each one of them stands on their own in great journals. We added skills. Now this slide is a little bit dated in that skills now on LinkedIn show as blue bubbles instead of a bullet points, as you see there. And for each skill, you self-identify how many years you've spent doing it and what your expertise level is. So I said to Barbara, let's talk about just what do you like to do? Where do you have skill sets? And we started talking about it, and she listed these, almost 10 skills, which are really uniquely what she's all about. I asked her if she had any certifications, and she said, oh yeah, I do sign language. Is that important? Well, of course it is. Because if you're dealing with the population that she's dealing with, in some cases she's going to come across people who are hearing impaired and need to know that this is something that she not only has studied and very hard to do, but she's capable of doing while she works. So that's very important. We added this piece of education. She's in the middle of at City College of San Francisco, and I misspoke. She has a degree from New School. It's the City College of San Francisco that she's in the middle of. This is what she's developing herself as she grows, and we're all growing. We're all morphing into the people that all of our experiences led us to today. The technology and the economy is changing. We're all adapting with it. And then we got her some recommendations. And at first she was a little reticent to do it, and I said, you want people to recommend you because you've done great work. There's nothing wrong with them helping you along and adding the attaboy or attagirl that you need to have to know that you're a great person. If you get recommendations, they should be terrific recommendations, because these are things that people are giving of themselves to make you look better and make your profile really stand out. We added different websites and her YouTube page. We added some interests that she has her own website for interest in photography, and we started to really build out the groups and associations that she has joined. She first was in only 2 groups, and now she's in all of these. These all reflect the things that she's involved in and her interest area and other people with like interests as she has. And then I asked her, do you have any honors and awards? And she said, well, I'd rather not say. And I said, Barbara, you're being so modest. Tell me. And she started to list them. And look at what this woman has done. Unbelievable stuff. In San Francisco, recognized by her peers over and over again since 1997. So she really stands out as the yellow person amongst all the other blue people that she works around. I always encourage my clients in the personal information to add a work phone number and an email address in these sections, because on the mobile programs that LinkedIn has on your Droid, your BlackBerry, your iPhone, what have you, if somebody says, I need to know somebody, and you find their LinkedIn profile on the mobile app, you need to be able to be found by your email or your phone number immediately. Don't make it something that you have to go back to your office to remember to do or ask somebody else to do. It's important that you're a go-to person and that you have this information literally at your fingertips. And finally, I like to have my clients leave in the contact settings a parting thought. This is how I'd like to be thought of. This is what I'm looking for. So this was the last 2-minute two-line section that she put in. These are her blog postings on WordPress, her photography portfolio. All of these, the blog postings and the portfolio and the events, are all the free applications that Brian spoke about earlier. We'll talk about that a little bit later when I come back on. The reading list and the SlideShare presentations as well are also free apps that you can add your own personalization. So what we did was take Barbara's rather gray and drab personal profile, and we really busted it up and cleared it and made it a lot more engaging. Now anybody who's casually reading her profile knows a lot more about the who she really is, as opposed to the what she does and how she used to convey that. I want to leave you with two more slides here. We talked earlier about keywords and about how you need to put keywords in your summary and your specialties on your personal profile. If you look at this website down at the bottom of this slide, Nathan Kievman, who is another LinkedIn evangelist out in Ohio, has an excellent seminar you can go through to learn how to really make keywords an important part of your profile. This is how you get found, folks, when somebody does a search, which of course Maria will tell you about in just a moment. And then finally, to just stop talking about Barbara and now talk about her organization, we created with her a company profile page that in 2 pages talks about an overview of what the organization does and lists the board member and her as the 2 people that LinkedIn identifies through the database as being affiliated with corporate community grows. And then on that second page, the products and services, we show the products and services that the organization provides to its community. It tells in its own way. It's like picking products, seed to mouth, cooking classes for youth, and more information. So there are, of the millions of company profiles out there, there are now only, and I have to say, only 101,000 nonprofits using company profiles. That number is staggeringly low. If you're in a nonprofit and you do not have a company profile, you're missing an absolutely incredible opportunity for people, professionals, corporates, new board members, volunteers, donors, especially donors, to engage with you in your own words about who you really are. I can't stress this enough. It's important that you add one. It's very easy. It might take you all of 5 minutes to do it, but so many nonprofits have failed to do that. So I implore you, please add a nonprofit company profile page. It's an easy thing to do. So I want to now segue this over to Maria. Maria is owner of the Prospect Finder. Her knowledge and expertise has over and over helped nonprofits research, prospect, find donors, board members, volunteers, stakeholders, and LinkedIn is one of the tools that she uses proactively and reactively. I've told you how to get found. She's going to show you how people can find you. Maria.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mark. And so what I thought we would do is just sort of open up a little bit with looking at what my LinkedIn world looks like. And the reason why I show this particular page, and actually the number's a little higher than the number you see there in terms of my first-degree connections, my search results that I do as a prospect researcher, as a business owner, are going to be vastly impacted by the number of first-degree connections that I have. So you can see how exponentially, when you look at my first and second and third-degree connections, how far I am removed from some people in case I need to reach out to them and get in touch. So let's talk a little bit more about utilizing LinkedIn for prospecting purposes, okay? So whether you're prospecting for board members, volunteers, strategic alliances, stakeholders. We're going to be talking about 3 main ways. The first way that we're going to discuss today is using the advanced search feature on LinkedIn. We'll also go into how to mine your own first-degree connections and how to utilize groups for finding looking at the search box that you see there in the upper right-hand side, okay? And what I like to do, because I'm the geek researcher that I am, I like to use the advanced search feature, which is just to the right of that box. You'll see the word advanced. When you click on that box, you then get a search screen that is much more robust. It's fabulous. So here is where the gold is, I believe, within LinkedIn. You can take this, and I just gave you a brief example here. If I were a nonprofit organization who needed to have additional people on my board, or perhaps you are a financial literacy organization and you just want to have more contact with accountants in your region, I decided to just run a sample search for you. I happen to have gone to Rutgers, so I decided, well, let's see what would happen if I looked at people who I felt rather close to, looking for Rutgers graduates in the field of accounting within a 25-mile radius of my zip code. I then further focused my search, and again, here, this is all free, folks. I focused my search on looking at people who are only first degree connected to me, second degree connected to me, or they shared a group that I belong to on LinkedIn, because I felt that, well, if I were an executive director and I needed to reach out to these people, I wanted to be able to feel like I had some level of connectivity with them. So again, I can run this search for free. Now, when I did this search, I actually came up with 157 names that matched. And then I decided to take a look at the profiles of interest to me. So I show you here, I have no idea who this person is, Mr. Brent Blaze, and whether or not he's even on this webinar today, but welcome if you are. You know, he's connected to me. If I wanted to be able to reach out to him, I definitely could. I could see exactly how I'm connected to him. On the right-hand side of his profile page, it shows the person that is actually between us. And then I could make some choices about how I would want to actually reach out to this particular individual. Okay, so LinkedIn gives you enough information to know exactly how you'll be able to make that connection if this is indeed a person you wanted to connect to. Let's look at mining your own first degree connections, okay? So anybody that you have accepted a connection request, or you've sent out a connection request and they have accepted, you are now first degree connected. And so you'll want to think closely about who you decide to accept as connections. And Jerry and Mark and I all have a little bit of a differing point of view, which we'll share with you later. But definitely know that any of the people that you are first degree connected to, they will have the opportunity to see all of your own connections, all right? So as a result, you would need to be clear that you're comfortable in showing those first degree connections to any new people you decide to accept. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what, I might have made some mistakes here in the past, you can go back and disconnect, if you will, from someone, and they're not going to know. There's no glaring message that's sent out to them. But just know that these are mineable connections. I just wanted you to be aware of that. So what you can do is click on the Contacts tab, and then your entire list of contacts are going to show, and this happens to be my contacts in alphabetical order. You can break them down into groups and so forth. But if we just took a look at that very first connection of mine on Danielle, I would be able to then peruse, if I wanted to, all of her first degree connections and decide if there might be some people in there that I might want to make a connection to. So you want to be able to identify those people, find opportunities for introductions, and this is going to provide you with another huge list of people you could reach out to. And finally, let's talk a little bit about groups, okay? Groups are very much like Some of them are geographical, some of them have to do with the line of work that you're in. So think about groups as in terms of your groups that you may want to join as being where your target audience is going to be, because there'll be discussions taking place in the groups, and you'll want to be able to be a good participating member of that group. So when we're talking about the groups, you can use that search box and start typing in words that describe what you're looking for, and LinkedIn will very smartly decide to start prompting you in some names of groups that contain the word, the search word that you're looking for. Now I'm just putting that little reminder in there, don't forget to change the drop-down menu to the word groups, otherwise it'll start just searching for people with that particular word. So change the drop-down box to the word groups and then start typing it in. Another way that you can search for particular groups to join, take a look at some of the first degree connections that you have and see what groups they are part of. If I wanted to, for example, join some more groups at this point, I might actually take a look at Mark Halpert's profile page and say, well, gee, you know, maybe there are some really fun groups around the topic of social media that Mark is part of that I'm simply not aware of even exist at this point. And if Mark is in that group, gee, that could be a really great group for me too. So thinking along those lines, you can find some really interesting groups for you to join as well. So let's take the example here that you may be a nonprofit organization related to animal welfare, and you are interested in finding people who are interested in pets. All right. So what I did was I went to that search box, and it's a little small for me, but I believe I typed in the word animal at the top there, and certain groups started to show up. I decided to just sort of click through and take a look at that first group, pet-friendly animal lovers, I think it says, and you would be able to then click through and learn a little bit more information. Now, if you've decided this is a group you want to join, okay, you should monitor the discussions and really participate, obviously, where you think you can add value. Sometimes it's a good idea to kind of lurk in the group for a couple of days, see what types of discussions go back and forth. Definitely be aware that some groups have specific rules of what is allowed during a discussion. And some groups don't allow anything that is promotional in nature. And in that case, most of them will then have a separate promotions tab. So if you have events and so forth that you would like to promote regarding your nonprofit coming up, find out if you're allowed to talk about those events in the discussions portion of the group, or if you have to put it into the promotions portion of the group. You can certainly start discussions about topics of interest to the group, just as Brian had gone into the Chronicle of Philanthropy group and started a discussion about LinkedIn. That was a perfect place for him. He had a huge audience, and you know, it'll be very interesting to see how that discussion evolves over time. You can definitely share your upcoming events. So you can list events. There is an events tab. It is free. You list your events on LinkedIn. It will create a separate URL to the event, or perhaps you already have a place on your website that describes the entire event. So you can, you know, point it to that particular URL. So it's completely your choice. But do know that this is another great way to promote all of the wonderful events that you have, your galas, your walks, all your fundraisers. Is certainly something that you can put there. You can share them within groups. You can share them with specific people, even in your own, your entire LinkedIn world, your first degree connections. Keeping up with group discussions. This is something that I'm asked quite frequently. Well, Maria, you know, how in the world do you keep up with all of your groups that you're in and all of the group discussions? Well, in your account settings, you decide how often you want to get a digest email of the discussions that day. You can decide to leave it at no email, meaning that you will need to go in and actually see on your own, whenever you decide to go in, what the discussions are. Or you can have LinkedIn send you a recap weekly or daily. So you really need to figure out how much time you think you'll be able to devote to this. For me, I have most of mine set on a daily digest. When I have time between meetings, etc., I will look at it on my BlackBerry and then try and do some catching up with the group discussions. Some groups, be aware, are members only and are going to require approval to join. Okay, so it's going to have a little lock symbol to the left-hand side of the group name. When you see that little lock symbol, you will know that that you're going to have approval, and also that means that the discussions taking place within that group are private, if you will. They're not going to be searchable within LinkedIn. So here's a sample of a group profile. Looking at this particular group profile, you can see that this one is called Nonprofit Professionals. To the right-hand side, it gives you an idea of who's managing the group, how many people are in the group. And this might be a group that if you're not already in, you may want to consider actually joining because there are a lot of terrific discussions having to do with the nonprofit sector in this particular group. So once you have found some people, you of course want to get that all-important introduction. Okay? So there are specific people within the group that could be perfect for you to be first degree connected to. One way that I do this is I look at my group and I take a look at who are the people in the group that I am second degree connected to, and I know that I might want to be first degree connected to those people. So I would peruse those connections and I can broaden that network further simply by sending them an invitation to connect directly. To get that introduction, you have a few different ways that you can go. You can use LinkedIn's built-in system. Okay, you'll be prompted. It'll say get connected through LinkedIn, and it'll allow you to do that right through the contacts that you have in common. You can actually just send an invitation to connect directly. Let them know, absolutely personalize the invitation to connect. Do not use the default. Mark and I are huge sticklers on that point. That's one area Mark and I definitely agree on. Please do not just leave the default. Personalize it, please. And in that personalization, you might say, I know you and I have Jerry in common, and I think we have some synergies. I think it would be a great idea to connect. Now, that's a more personalized connection. If you have something specific that you want to speak to the person about, give them a little bit of a heads up. Let them know this is why you want to connect. And then, of course, old school works too. You can call your first degree connection and say, hey, you know what, Jerry, how well do you know Mark? I'd love an introduction to Mark. Are you willing to make an introduction on my behalf? So you've got a couple of different ways to go, but at least at this point, you've seen how far you're connected to the person. You've seen their profile, which hopefully is going to be very robust, and you'll have an opportunity to see exactly why you'd want to make a connection to that person. And at this point, I'm going to actually turn it back to Mark because he's got a wonderful case study on a real-life situation that he came across recently, and it really illustrates the point on why you want to use LinkedIn to find donors, board members, sponsors, etc. Thanks, Mark.
Great, thank you. I'm going to leave this slide up for a moment, and I want you to think with me a little out of the box here. If you're looking to find somebody, Maria's just told you a bunch of great ways to do it. In the case I'm going to show you, it's a real case, and the organization is nice enough to let us use their name and how we found them and eventually what happened. You'll see that we found a board member. But you don't only find board members. You can find volunteers. You can find donors. You can just find friends, people who are sympathetic to your cause. This is a way that you can engage people, but you have to be able to let them know who you really are. I want to keep ramming that home. So we'll go to the next slide. And so let's find somebody. So I got an email from a friend of mine. David said, I have a friend who's the chair of the Connecticut Audubon Society. They're looking for a new board member. And this board member has really to have two criteria. interest in the environment, and of course, the message. So this is going to require somebody who gets LinkedIn, gets social media on a larger scale, and understands how they can guide the other board members who lack this expertise to make the message that the Audubon Society is trying to get out to the audience. So David said, come to my office, let's do this. So I ran over to his office, and we sat down. And I said, David, let's go to the advanced search box, which Maria's told you about, and let's just pop in a few keywords. Environment, wildlife, birding. We had many different iterations of this. Located within 25 miles of the location of the Audubon Society. And we're looking for people who have experience or have expertise in civic and social organizations, and there were more nonprofit organizations. And you know, these are all, you can click on any of these boxes in the industry section. And what groups are they in? Well, we decided let's be inclusive, any group. Doesn't have to be certain groups. And let's be inclusive further, that they're all LinkedIn members. This is the first that we're looking for, first level. And they all speak English, and this and that and this and that. And so we clicked on search, and the next slide shows what came back to us. 8,510 potential board members. Well, we had to really scour up and limit this list before we sent it over to the Connecticut Audubon Society. So we went back to the modify your search on the right-hand side, and we started to limit it more, not just people in this area. We gave it a lot more segmentation. And you can play with this, and you can ultimately print reports of what LinkedIn finds for you. And this is a wonderful way to really, really drill deeper, deeper, deeper. At the end of the day, we found 15 potential great board members. And we sent that list over to the Audubon Society. And wouldn't you know it, they found one great board member from what we understand is one of the best they've had in years. She gets birding, she gets social media, she really gets their mission. And they love her. And it's a real life story, and it was right in their backyard. It was so close to them, it's like sometimes you just can't tell who's out there because you just lose track of where people are. This is a great win-win for both her and for the board and for the organization. So you can do this. It can be done for board members. It can be done for donors, for volunteers. If you're looking for old college roommates, if you're looking for business partners, if you're looking for just about anybody, Maria's already walked you through it. Real life story. It really, really made my friend Dave look great to his friend who was the chairman of the Connecticut Audubon Society. I love showing this story because most people need to see that it really works. Now, you're going to meet a lot of people as you go, and I even meet people I don't even meet. And how do I do that? People approach me on LinkedIn. And often they approach me with what Maria was talking about with the boring, I think, and really boilerplate default. I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm adding some emphasis here. But this guy, Kevin, connected to me. And first of all, I don't know him. So I gave him a shake. I gave him a good chance. I looked on his public profile. Still didn't see where I could help him. And didn't see where he could help me. So I went back to him. And this is a standard stock email that I send back to people who connect to me where I just don't see the connectability. Sorry, but it's my policy to link to people I've either met and gotten to know or do business with. And since your connection to me doesn't qualify, I'll respectfully decline. I think it's short, it's to this point, it's professional. My colleagues don't completely agree with me, but I don't connect to people I don't know. And the reason I don't do that is what happened just about 2 weeks ago. A friend was new to LinkedIn, and she started connecting to all of my friends, and it was inappropriate, and I called her down on it immediately. And so I've seen this happen. I've seen other people have it happen, but I will give people a chance. I will look on their profile. Another reason why your profile needs to tell who you really are, So when somebody's assessing whether you're the type of person they want to connect to, you're telling them in your own words why you stand out from the crowd. I'll go on to the next slide. And this is the LinkedIn applications. Now, the LinkedIn applications are the biggest unknown in LinkedIn. So I want to show you where to find them, and I want to give you a few minutes on some of these at a very high level. You can go into them. They're all freely available to you. You do not have to pay for LinkedIn to get the applications. That's a common misconception. I want you to see how you get to them. So we'll go to the next slide. This is going to add more dynamism to your profile, much more than you can even say in your own words. It's going to show where your interests lie, what your hobbies, what your professional interests, what your passions are. We are all passionate, otherwise we would not be in the nonprofit universe. We all like to tell our story about how we can help people and what is in it for them to know us. This is where you're going to do it. So we'll go on to the next slide. So at the very top on the LinkedIn top line, you click on More. Now, when you click More on your LinkedIn profile, it may not look exactly like mine because I've added a lot of applications. But you want to find the applications you haven't yet connected or haven't loaded by going to Get More Applications. It's the very bottom of the drop-down. This is a composite slide of various slides on LinkedIn or various pages on LinkedIn that show you the applications. I'll start at the top left. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. There's a great story of a major corporation did a poll not too long ago, last Christmas time, about one of their products on LinkedIn to see if business people were understanding the concept that they were putting out there with the product. If the product fell flat on its face, people did not get it. They rescinded the advertising campaign because they did a very quick and free poll on LinkedIn and found that they needed to revisit their advertising on that product. Great story in how to use LinkedIn to put things out there in a very informal way. See if people are agreeing with you, if they understand what you're trying to convey. Company buzz is about what people are saying about companies. It can be slightly or very negative because unfortunately people like to blast companies in company buzz. But once in a while, if you're looking at a new client, as you're going to meet somebody at a company and you want to know a little bit about what's going on at the company, especially in today's turbulent markets, you can also sort of get a little bit of what the people on the street are saying. Legal updates. I'm not trying to take anything away from the lawyers, but frankly, before I call a lawyer, I want to know what's going on in legal updates. For me, it's free, and lawyers that I speak to and lawyers that I lecture about LinkedIn, they say it's a really great source of information. So it's a really great way to get some up-to-date legal information. Projects and team spaces on the second level, on the left side. This is a great way that you and anybody else on LinkedIn can pass a project around anywhere in the world, in any time zone. It's a great way to leave off at a point when you're done with the work and give it off to somebody else to do their magic to the project. And then other people can wade in, and you can make assignments within the project. Creative portfolio display I spoke about in terms of Barbara Wenger earlier. She's an avid photographer. I have a client, a former client, who is a architectural interior designer and just finished an incredible apartment in a very, very top-name hotel in New York City, and she showed the before, during, and after of that project. Nonprofits, you can do this with projects you're engaged in. Say it's a Habitat for Humanity house that you're rebuilding, before, during, and after. And definitely get the picture of the new occupant's face at the after. That's a great way to show the real, in words, which are worth more than 1,000, pictures, which are worth more than 1,000 words, what you've done. You can meet them for a glass of wine over a topic that you want to discuss. Great way to meet people. I have to tell you personally, I've met some outstanding new friends this way, not because I'm lonely, but because I want to meet new people who share the passions that I have. WordPress is a great way to connect your blog to everybody else on LinkedIn that you're connected to, and their blogs to you. So everybody's seeing what everybody's posting. A great way to get a lot of extra eyes on your blog. In fact, a friend of mine had her blog show up on a major corporate blog site. She did not know how it got there, and it turns out it came through somebody showing somebody at that magazine, look what I found on LinkedIn. Unbelievable, real life story. Google presentation, a great place to post your videos because you have a lot of bandwidth, a lot of space, the memory space you can put out there on Google. I have my videos on Google presentation. Lots of people like to use that. And then reading lists by Amazon is another great place to show people what you're reading, even if it's not business oriented. I have a novel I'm reading. Other people have read it. They have lots of great things to say about it. I'm a big fan of Seth Godin's. I put all the books I've read that he's written on my reading list because even though I've finished reading them, I go back to them and read them again, get something out of them again. If I'm getting something out of them, there's something there for you. So certainly look at these free applications. They're easy to add. There's two more that I'm not showing here. And one of them is SlideShare, where you can add all of your slides. In fact, I add a lot of my slide presentations there. They show on my LinkedIn page. And the other is BoxNet. BoxNet being a great source for all your multimedia, and it's shareable. There's URL links that you can provide, and you can embed them in emails. You can embed them anywhere in advertisements. Whatever you're doing online, you can put into BoxNet. It takes podcasts. It takes slides, it takes PDFs, white papers, Word docs, Excel worksheets, whatever you're putting out there. It's an unbelievably great tool. This is the best called LinkedIn Today. It's the best app I've ever seen them do. I took a snapshot of my LinkedIn Today from August 1st. Now you have to think this with me. I have a lot of interests. I luckily get to meet a lot of people in a lot of different industries, and I like to read materials that I don't really have time to read, the newspaper, the magazine, or the online version of the journal. I do like LinkedIn Today telling me that such and such an article appeared in this case, Mashable, about HTML5. How do I get that? You see on the right side, it says top sources, and just below that, suggested industries. You go in and you selectively decide which sources of news you want to be feeding this to you, and from what industries those sources of news are going to give this from. So it's creating a matrix of news reports and news items that I might not necessarily see. And you can choose all of this. It's completely up to you. So I might be interested right now in insurance because I'm working with an insurance client, but down the road, if I'm no longer working in the insurance industry or with a client in that industry, I can take that off and add whatever new industry I'm working with. And it becomes actually an amazingly selective way for me to read news. So let's look at the Adobe launches HTML5 news story here. You see it came from Mashable right underneath the title, and just to the right of that, it says share. If I click share, I can share that with everybody I'm connected to. Or I can just share that with certain groups I'm involved with if it's more appropriate for that group. Or I can just send it to selected individuals by cherry picking them out of my connection list. You have tremendous flexibility with LinkedIn Today. It's a great way to disseminate information or say, here's a great story you need to know about. If it's something in social enterprise and I think Jerry might not see it, I'm going to pop it right over to her with 2 clicks on my mouse. A wonderful, wonderful tool. Sometimes she says I've already seen it because I can't get one past her. Sometimes I can get her something that she needs to see because it's really a great story. So I'm able to feed my LinkedIn updates through LinkedIn Today. You know that when you go to that LinkedIn homepage, when you sign on to LinkedIn, there's a bubble coming out of your picture. This is a great place to tell people I read a great article or I'm doing something today. And this just gives you more material to add on a regular basis to add to the community. We're all in a personal learning network. We're all adding to the community conversation. LinkedIn Today provides so much great information.
Okay, terrific. So I want want to thank Mark and Maria for doing such a thorough job. But even doing such a comprehensive job, there are some questions. So I'm going to be doing them in the order that they came in, and for some of the questions, some of the audience actually answered them, but I'm still going to ask them.
Good.
So my boss isn't on LinkedIn, and that's who I would really go to for a recommendation. How can I come up with other kinds of recommendations?
Well, so I guess the question is, other than my boss, how do I get people in my mind that I'm going to approach for recommendations? Well, first of all, shame on your boss. You can quote me, because if the subordinates are on LinkedIn and working very hard to make sure everybody knows who they are, the boss should set the tone from the top down. Okay, enough evangelizing. Anybody who's ever told you you did a great job on that project, that you came in under budget or within the time constraints or even before the time deadline, that's a great person to approach for a recommendation. We're not talking about recommendations that are long and lengthy, a few lines, but that somehow reflect the character and the skill set you uniquely brought to the table. Again, it further differentiates you from your competition, makes you even yellower than the yellow guy in front of the blue guys. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Go to colleagues, go to vendors, anyone else who could speak on your expertise.
I just reconnected to an old boss from about 11 years ago. I did good work 11 years ago. I don't necessarily expect him to remember it, but I'm certainly going to, if I need a recommendation from him, going to remind somebody from the past, this is what I did. You told me I did a really great job. It might jog his or her memory, and would you mind committing just a couple of lines about what I did? It's just a great way to get a little bit more meat on the bones on your LinkedIn profile.
And I've actually done the same. So bosses from 15 years ago, we've actually given each other recommendations.
Absolutely.
So totally agree. Brenda asks, I'm involved in multiple organizations at the same time. How do I have multiple profiles, or what do I do?
Okay, Brenda, perfect. Stay tuned. Jerry and I are going to do a webinar in the fall. I've had enough interest. I did a test. I had a lot of interest for people who have multiple businesses. How to show on your LinkedIn profile your multiple businesses in the best way. Maria has multiple businesses. Jerry has multiple businesses. I do, and I keep running into people all the time. Stay tuned in the fall. Just a quick answer to that question is, you have multiple businesses, so you can show multiple company profiles. You can only show one Brenda personal profile. So what you need to do is write that you have two businesses into your summary and specialties and use the right keywords so you can be found if somebody's looking for you in a search for one or the other industry you're in, or both at the same time. If you look at my profile, if you look at any of my the clients that I've worked with, working with one right now, we're working very hard to make sure that it's really clear to the casual reader how both of the businesses are intertwined. Really key.
And Brenda says awesome, so I guess you answered the question.
Good. We'll talk to you again in the fall, Brenda. Stay tuned. It's coming.
And actually, I have one of those things that I'm going to feed to Brian, because I guess he has access to the product development people. It's difficult to prioritize your profiles. So I would love to be able to say, not in chronological order, but in terms of importance to those multiple businesses.
Yeah.
Put them in the order that I want them to be in.
Yeah, that's a great point. That question comes up a lot. LinkedIn right now, the way it's designed and programmed, will show the most recent job that you have started chronologically on top of your experience. You may be involved in 3 different businesses concurrently, but the most recent one you started is the one that's going to appear on top. To your point, Jerry, I'd love to see them make that change. I wish you were here to carry that back, but it's something that I think they'll eventually be able to change because they realize that we are all multipreneurs these days.
Exactly. So another question, this one from, actually I'm not sure who this is from. So under publications, of course I can list articles that I've written. Can I list articles that have been written about me?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You can, it's really a matter of when you want to point someone to that particular article that you give the URL. So I'm hoping that that particular article is somewhere online, and that you'll be able to place it as a URL. Otherwise, what you might need to do is somehow scan it and bring it into one of those apps, into Google Docs or Box.net. So if it's not an article, if it was written long ago before the days of having a URL for all these specific articles, that might be one way to get around it.
So Michelle asks, I'm involved in a club that has alumni. How might I use a LinkedIn group and get them involved and engaged in a group?
Okay, great. I'm actually working with the university right now that's trying to get a better handle on promoting the university's aspects and its events to its alums. First of all, you need to tell them that you have a group. You need to invite people to the group. So go back into your database of alums and pull into It's a great way to engage them. Once you do that, you can tell them about all sorts of events that go on. You can even feed your blog or your news service right into LinkedIn through blog postings. It's what we're doing with one of these universities. We're talking about upcoming parent-student nights or evenings or weekends or whatever. What articles have been written about the university in various newspapers. Again, to what Maria said, post the URL. Tell people the good news that's being talked about in your group. The more you tell the alums good work that you're doing, then you can approach them and ask for a donation, because they have to know where their money is going to go. The more they see, well, the good work you're doing, the more apt they are to donate.
I'm not sure if I've gotten this question correctly, but I think Jacqueline is asking, can you get recommendations for company profiles as opposed to personal? So Maria?
Yes, when you set up your company page, or in this case your nonprofits page, which LinkedIn at this point just considers a company page, you can get separate recommendations for the organization as well. So once you've set that organization up, you will see the feature that will prompt you to go ahead and send out specific recommendation requests. And again, you can target people that you want to ask for a specific recommendation from.
Terrific. One person asks, they've accumulated 190 invites. How can they just weed through them, connecting to some and ignoring others?
Okay, great. All your invitations appear in your inbox in LinkedIn. There are two tabs. One is for messages or emails, and the other is for invitations. So look in that tab for invitations, and you can either order them chronologically or alphabetically, and you can go through them. Do I connect? Do I ignore? Or do I report them as spam? If they're really spamming you, be careful, because the more people that report that same person as spamming them, that person will